All right. Good evening, everyone. So today our session is on chatbots.
Yelena, this is Zoltan. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if it's just me, but your audio is like
Okay,
has a
I'm
lot of
trying.
noise.
Okay, what about now? Okay, I hope it's better. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Okay, now here's today's agenda. We're going to talk about what the chatbot is. We're going to look at the key terminology, and we're going to apply the key terminology to build an example, which is a Mr. Bmi. It's called Mr. Bmi. We're going to talk about some tip tricks and best practices, right? And I will help you clarify your assignment for requirements. Okay. So now some key reminders. You have to, for this assignment, yes, you have to have your chatbot dialog ready 3 days before the assignment is due, because, well, you have to do an experiment which takes 2 days, right? In that part of assignment, you involve your, you need to involve your, you can involve me, or you can involve your relatives, or, well, anybody, your friends, for testing the chatbot. So that part takes 2 days. Then it takes some time to use the discovery service. I'll let you know more. Okay. Now we want to make sure that your IBM Cloud account is active. Some people make that mistake, accidentally deactivated. Do not enter the credit card number. Do not submit any tickets to IBM. Okay. Do not deactivate your account. And then you want to make sure that you got at least 70% on that key concept quiz, right? The walkthrough that you're asked to do on Mr. Code, it's sequential. So in other words, if there is an ungraded exercise, you cannot skip it because the page that follows builds on that exercise, all right? For assignment 4, the chatbot that you develop must be original work, so you cannot submit Mr. Code, right? And expect to receive the credit for that, no. You want to pay attention to deliverables. You're required to submit 2 files, then you need to submit 2 files. Some people forget to submit JSON files and the work cannot be graded, right? Then the deletions cannot be undone. Well, if you want to try something, perhaps, right, you cannot undo it. So what you can do is you can export the JSON file, right? And then if you make a mistake or something, you'll be able to re-import the file back, okay? Now, the only mistake you can make is not asking for help, okay? All right, so this is, it's not new, but it's a must-know terminology, because when I assist you, I'm going to be using this vocabulary, right? For instance, create a slot, add a handler to the slot, add a dialog skill, add a search skill. But if you don't know what the search skill is, you know, we are speaking different language, right? So Professor Gachor was going to do that part, but I'm going to a little bit. So what is a chatbot? Basically, well, a bot is just a system, right? It is used to solve certain problem automatically. It's based on a certain trigger, right? But the chatbot, it understands your human language. So you may interact with it may interact with the user, right? Like, for example, you've seen the chatbot that you can use to order pizza, right? It's interacting you, it's asking you questions about the order, and you respond accordingly, right? And it's mainly to solve the specific problem. It's not going to solve all problems, but specific problems that it was trained on, right? Well, so for this assignment, this is what you need to do, the high level thing. You're going to define the purpose of your application, right? So today we're going to do an example. We're going to do Mr. Bmi. You're going to define the scenario for which you're going to build the conversation flow diagram. Then you're going to use IBM, you're going to use Watson Assistant on IBM Cloud to implement the chatbot, right? And then you're going to train the application and test different scenarios on specific topic. Then you're going to integrate it with Watson Discovery Service, because you want to allow searching certain sort of like knowledge base, if you will, right? The idea is you have the collection of documents, latest collection on a topic, and you try to search it for the answers. You will pretend that you deploy application. In this case, deployment is an assistant that you're going to create, right? Then you're going to look at the conversation log, right? You're going to identify the limitations, and you're going to suggest some enhancements and maybe potential integrations with other services, okay? So let's see, just joined. Okay. Anyway, all right, so this is what you're going to do. It's just the high level steps, but we're going to talk about details. So this is the application that I'm going to show you, and you're going to get the JSON file after this. It's a Mr. Bmi Chatbot application. The mission is this. So the user may use it to estimate what the BMI. The user may use it to interpret the blood pressure readings, to learn more about the blood pressure topics, right? And the whole idea is that the application is available 24/7, and it's 100% free, right? And your results remain confidential, and it's consistent. So, for example, if I say that the blood pressure 120/80 is normal, it's going to give me the same result, and it's going to give perhaps, let's say, don't mean to pick on anybody, but perhaps maybe Melissa, right? If she enters the same blood pressure, she's going to get the same result, right? And the answers are consistent. And in order to answer new questions, the application will require what? Training, right? It will require training to answer new questions. Now, I think the best way, well, basically, just to set up, you have the office, and the office has 3 doctors, and each doctor works on a different schedule. Dr. Monitor, Miss Stethoscope, and Mr. BMI, right? So basically, the idea is the doctor on duty is going to greet you and provide the menu of options that what you can do, right? But I think the best way to do it is just to show you straight, right? To show you straight how it looks like. Oops, here it is. So now here this I launched it before 8 p.m. right? So see, this is a picture. There is a message, greeting message. Okay, do I have something in the chat? Okay, good. Okay. See this? So this is a meeting. This is a greetings, and this is a picture. And how may I help you? And this is a drop down, right? But if I refresh it right now, because right now it's after 8 p.m. Eastern time, you're gonna see, you're supposed to see a different picture. So this is Mr. BMI calculator. The picture is different depending on the time of the day when you launch this application. So here it's asking me to select an option. I can say, okay, I want to estimate the BMI. It's going to ask me about the height. So immediately I'm going to tell you the limitation. This application only accepts height in inches. It assumes what you entered is inches. It does not accept the centimeters and meters, right? So what is my height in inches, right? I can say perhaps 60 inches. And now it's going to ask me how many pounds do you weigh? And based on that, it's going to calculate the BMI, all right? And there is a formula that does it, and it says that overweight, all right? It's based on the formula that's in there. The message in here that you see is different depending on the calculation result, all right? Okay, so what else? Let's refresh, start all over. Okay, this is my next conversation. So see this? Now what I can do is I can say my blood pressure, let's say, right? But one thing to notice is that it's looking for a number here, right? Enter your systolic blood pressure. Well, blood pressure has a systolic, it's a top reading, and a diastolic, it's a lower reading. So, for example, if I enter something like XXX, right, it's going to ask me again because this is not a number. You want to enter a number, right? I can say something like 120, right? It's supposed to recognize because you can spell the number, right? Now you enter diastolic blood pressure, and I can say it's 95. Now it's gonna tell me, see, it's gonna say high blood pressure stage 1. See this? You may need to change lifestyle changes, etc. However, if I entered really high readings, right, it would it would tell me that I need to see the doctor immediately and the application would exit. So that's one of the options too. Now here, just showing you the menu, what you want to do next. And perhaps next I want to know what's BMI, what am I talking about? So take a look at what's gonna happen right now. There are a few things that's going on. So here, this is a hard-coded text, right? I entered exactly here the text. Now, in here, this is just a image. I specified the image URL to show this, but what is this? Here, it's showing me the articles of interest about body mass index. Where does this come from? This comes from the search skill. Watson Discovery Service is a repository where I build a repository on medical, from medical database, right? So here it is. Now, do you see those other articles related on the topic? Now what I do is, suppose that I type something like this, CPR. CPR is it's basically it's a first response, right? So let's do this. Let's type CPR. My application does not handle CPR. However, what this is going to do is it's going to attempt to search. When I type something here that is not recognized, my chatbot is going to attempt to do the search, right? It's searching the repository, okay? And here see more articles, right? So I'm going to refresh this again, just restarting. What else you could do is here, well, suppose that you want the information to be emailed to you. Email me the information, right? Then you have to enter your email address, but I'll show you something. It's checking if the email address is valid. For instance, I can type this, XXX. Now it's going to ask me to re-enter the email, right? Now I can say something like this, xx@xxx.com. We're just looking for this pattern. Let's see. Well, it's not going to check if the email is valid, but it just checked if it just checked if it follows the pattern, I would say, right? But what else I did here is this. Well, suppose that a user keeps on entering invalid email multiple times. What's going to happen? Are we going to be stuck in a loop and keep on asking and asking and asking and asking? Well, what I did in here is that I gave 3 attempts. If the user does not enter correct email after 3 attempts, it's just going to exit. Is this? Yes. 2, right? 3. Now it's going to just exit. It says, sorry, the wild email required to send the information, and then it goes back, right? Next thing is that, let's say I want to exit. What it's going to show? See this? It says this, see this, and what is this? Tuesday. This is reading the day of the week, right? It's reading current day of the week. But if you were running this application on weekend, it would say something like, have a nice weekend, right? So this is basically the big picture of what it looks like, and we're gonna break it down. So here it is. What are the scenarios? This is one example of the scenario. The user will select estimate BMI, right? The user is gonna enter height and weight, and then the application is gonna do the calculation. Few things to remember is that a number can be written as a text. The chatbot is going to recognize it if it's written as a text, and then the application will calculate the BMI and will form, right? If it falls in a healthy range. So this is what we looked at, right? But this is one of the scenarios that you need to discuss. And this is the blood pressure, right? My blood pressure conversation scenario. And I'll let you, you're going to have this slides, but I just wrote it out for you just to make sure that you have something to refer to, right? So it will return if the blood pressure is too low or too high, right? And then based on that, it will tell you the guidelines what to do. Did I hear someone say something? No? Okay, so that's a conversation scenario. That's another scenario. Explain, right? What it's doing, it's not only showing this, it's only going to the knowledge base to search. And I'll show you the configuration. Okay, so this is just the email conversation scenario, right? So if the response contains a valid email address, it is extracted from the input and it's echoed, right? But of course, it's not going to check the validity of an email. It's just going to check if it follows the format. And the user is prompted to re-enter if the format is invalid. But what I did was I limited to 3 times. If it's entered incorrectly, if it does not follow the predefined format 3 times in a row, the application will the user it will quit, right? It's not, user is not going to be asked to enter email anymore. Okay, now, and this is exit scenario. It's going to show the date of the week, right? But this is another scenario. This happens if the blood pressure is dangerously high. The user will see that you have a hypertensive crisis. You should contact your doctor immediately, right? And this is just the exit during the weekday and the exit on a weekend, right? So let me see the chart. Oh yeah, oh yes. This is a, yes, thank you, Nick. Yes. That's a good one, yeah. Now, you're gonna need to create a flowchart, right? And I believe Visio is part of the one of the applications that comes with your you have a student email account, right? And then you have some applications that come with it. And I think the Visio is part of that. If you don't have it installed on your PC, Visio is part of that. Your student email has applications, right? And Visio is in there. So you can use that to build a diagram. This is just how it looks like. Bunch of scenarios, okay? Well, this is how you start. You create a new skill. And in some readings, skill is also known as a, yeah, Visio is excellent. Yes, thank you. Now you create a skill, right? Here, this is what I just showed you, that the skill allows you, this is what you will do for your assignment, because you will have to submit, right? Oops, you would need to submit your so see here, I'm launching Watson Assistant, and if I go to the skills, you're asked to submit the JSON files. So how do we get the JSON file? You're gonna click here, and there is an option to download, right? This is what you're gonna submit. You download the JSON file here. That's what it's showing you. And this is a skill. You create a skill, then you're gonna create your intents. Well, you can create it manually or you can upload it. But in a walkthrough, just for the purpose of not making it 200 pages long, you are uploading. It shows you one example how to create, right, manually, and then it tells you to upload just because to save time. Otherwise, your walkthrough would be how many pages long? Imagine. Okay, so you add intents. You have the entities. There is a email entity that's called the pattern entity. You need to have a pattern entity in your assignment, right? So I'm gonna show you what that is. That's a Mr. Bmi Health Center. Well, this is an entity. Remember, there are 2 types of entities, right? My entities and system entities. So my entities, I created an email, and this is what a pattern, and this is a pattern for email. Now, the pattern that could be more than one value, more than one pattern, because if you're looking at the phone number, you have the local phone number format, and you also have an international phone number, right? So you're gonna have 2 patterns, right? Other patterns, the patterns are like regular expressions. Excellent, yes. Those are regular expressions, and no magic. I took them from documentation. There is a documentation, right? And I took it there. This is called code reuse, right? So just take this expression here. This is checking for the valid email, right? So that's what it's doing. And then when the user is prompted to enter an email, it's using something called slot. It keeps on asking until either the email is correct format is entered, or in my case, I use the counter. In my case, I'm using the counter there, okay? Now, that's what it is. And this is not the pattern. So this is like a regular. You put the synonyms here, okay? So an entity, it's got multiple values, right? And you got the each value has what synonyms, okay? Now I'm going to go back here. So you've got two entities in this case, and system entities. I'm using the date, right? And I'm using the number. Where I use the number, where I read the blood pressure, right? That's a number. And this one is the date because I'm using the date. I'm using the time of the day to determine which picture to show. So if you go back to the dialog, this is a welcome node, right? Yep. Let me see. What you did email, is it? Well, yes, it's parsing. That's correct. That's correct. Excellent, Zoltan. Yes. Well, yes, because you're using it, you parse the email from the user's input. That's right. Yes, yes. Well, that's an example. You can do email, you can do phone number, you can say, okay, enter the PIN number, and the PIN number has to be 4-digit number, something like that, right? There are many examples. Well, see, so this is a welcome node. What I have in here is the conditional response. If now is before 10 a.m., well, that's going to take between midnight and 10 a.m., then do this. Otherwise, if it's now after 5 p.m., between 5 p.m. and midnight, do that. Here, anything else, it's not anything else node. It just means that if these two conditions are not true, do this. And what is welcome? Welcome is a condition that gets triggered when you start the conversation, okay? Well, so you have that here. Those are 3 responses, but let's take a look at this. See this? First response is a text, then it's an image, yeah? Where does it say that we need to do? Well, it's not, it says that you need to have the pattern entity. It does. It does in assignment requirements and also in a rubric. I don't know if I have, oh, I don't have that open. I have the chatbot walkthrough. But if you look at the assignment requirements, it does say that you need to use a regular expression to parse user input. And it's also in the grading rubric, okay? So yes, you need to do that. Now here I want to point out that for the images, you cannot copy and paste the picture directly. You have to specify the image source, which is a URL, and make sure that it ends is a JPG or PNG, something like that, right? Alternate text is basically the text that you see when the image is highlighted. If you want to, you can enter. Response variations. See this? This is a text that the user will see. You want to do that, like if I rerun my chatbot, I want to see a different message. I want to see the same message. So that's what it is, response variations, right? So here is a different time of the day, different image. And then what does it do? In here, it says that what assistant should do next. And I want to just do whatever the node setting is. You could, if you wanted to, if you have to, you could, based on the response, right, determine where to go next. You can do that. But here, in this case, we want to do the next one. Here, we want to take the main menu. Well, because see that basically you're gonna go in here, and here is gonna show. Well, first of all, what it's doing here is this. It's taking the date, right? It's storing the date in a variable. This is not sure why, but I'm setting the attempt. And I use this to limit how many times the user can be prompted for email, how many times in a row. So we have that, right? But this piece here, it returns the current date. It's just an expression to get the current date, and this 5-letter E means that it's going to be the date spelled out, right? If I put 3E, it's going to be date abbreviation, like today is Tuesday, right? TUE or Tuesday. If it's 5 letters E, it's going to take that. This is just the context variables. But here, what this does, it displays the menu. One thing to remember is this: the menu has what? Label and a value. Value is an intent that gets triggered when the menu option is selected, okay? And label is what user sees for that option, okay? So now here, like for example, email me is an intent, right? And here, this is what you see as a label of this. BMI is an intent. Explain BMI is an intent, right? And blood pressure is an intent. Goodbye is an intent, right? So that's how this works. And then it's waiting for the user reply. And based on the reply, it's going to determine which node is triggered next. So this is email me node, right? It's in here. What it's doing is that it's checking for the valid email, right? It's checking for the email, and it's saving it in a variable, in a context variable called email. And then here, please enter your email address, right? If the email, if valid email format is not detected, it's just gonna do this. One thing that is not done in here, I should be able to just type exit. You have to add handlers to each slot, okay? Now in here, well, what is that I'm doing here is that if I have some logic in there, I set it equal to X if the number of attempts are exhausted, okay? And then here, well, X is a dummy, right? So if it's not X, it's whatever you entered, right? So it displays a message, the email will be sent with information. Anything else, it means not this, right? Well, somewhere in the what I'm doing here, you really have to look at the code, but if the email is not detected, I am adding 1 to the attempt. You would really have to look at this. So see this here is this. If it's checking, if attempt is greater than 1, right? Then it's gonna say, sorry, valid email must be entered, right? Otherwise, it's gonna exit. Well, and number of attempts, I think it starts from the 0. So it's gonna be first time, it's gonna be 0, then it's gonna be 1, right? And then it's 2, I think, yes. So if you enter it incorrectly, third time, if you don't, and if your input doesn't contain the email address, right, for 3 times in a row, then it's gonna exit. But okay, let me see. I was hoping you could add personalized messages to the second or third failed attempts. You can do it. Yeah, you can do that. Well, it's in here. See, if it's not found, you can check the attempt number, and based on that, do this, right? And then you also could do, see this, it's in here. See this? It's in a it's configured in here. If it's X, right? Oh, okay. So see this, it's gonna check this, and if it's gonna increment this, increments the attempt. Okay, it increments the attempt, and it set the context to X if you already exhausted all your attempts, right? It's supposed to set the email to X, and X is a dummy value that I'm using. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm glad it's helping. Okay. Yeah, you can personalize messages based on attempts. Absolutely, right? And here it just the valid email is required. Right? You can do a lot here. Okay, discard the changes. I may have changed something, but I don't want to save it. Well, okay, so that's an email. estimate BMI is a little bit more complex because, well, you have to check for a number, right? What is this? It's a system number. It's an entity, right? What type of entity it is? System. And this prefix SYS is reserved for the system entities. So here it's going to save it as this context variable, right? And if it's not found in the input, it's just going to ask again. In this case here, I did not put the loop breaker. Okay, I did not. But what else you have here? This is to manage handlers. I can exit, or for instance, maybe I'm not sure what BMI is. I can ask explain, and it's just gonna show me this message and then return. So the idea is handler, you can basically step away. You can temporarily sort of like a step away and then got back to the main conversation course. It allows you to jump around a little bit, right? So for instance, I was collecting the readings and suddenly I could exit, or suddenly I could ask for clarification. Hey, wait a minute, what is BMI? What is this? Can you tell me this? In this case, it's not gonna go to the node where it's display the articles, right? I did not do that, but I just display the brief message here, okay? Well, in this one, what this does is, it's doing the calculation, right? Here it's gonna say your BMI is, well, this is just takes the numbers and does the multiplication, right? It does this. I just found this formula. It's taking the weight multiplied by 703 and then divided by the height squared. Okay, so that's what it is. And based on the recommendation is going to be different depending on what the number is, right? So here is just saying if you are greater than 0, of course, but less than 18.5, it means that you're underweight, and etc. Right? Overweight and insufficient indicates the insufficient body weight, etc. Oh, this one is response variation. But in here, this is a conditional response, right? And anything else is that, sorry, I did not receive, right? I did not receive the information to estimate BMI. This is just basically catching if the information was not provided by a user. So if I want to exit, right? If I exit, it's just gonna say, hey, I did not get the information that I needed to estimate the BMI. And in here, it's also doing the jump to. This one jump to is going to evaluate the responses. It's going to go back to the main menu. That's what it's doing here. After it shows the response, it's going to display the main menu. That's what it says it's doing. Now, let's go back to the slides. Well, this is just, I was going a little bit not in order as here, but just remember there are two types of entities. My entities is what you add, and the system entities are pre-built, not editable. You cannot add them manually, and their name starts with SYS, right? It's a reserved name. Regular entities, user entities, you can import them in the CSV file. You can add them manually. The name cannot start with SYS. This is a reserved name, right? And also, they're editable and you can train them, all right? And they're local to the skills where you create them, right? But the system entities can be used across multiple skills. Okay. This is just how to add entities. I just spelled it out. Well, this is just the repeat of the dialogue. And what is this? I did not show you information on the topic. Basically, it's possible to group multiple nodes into the folder. That's what I'm doing here. Explain BMI, explain blood pressure, right? Well, look, explain BMI. This is just the first type of the response. It's the text. Then it's an image. This is a URL. And here, well, what is this? Tell me what is this? Look, it's showing the search skill. This is just calling my search skill and it's gonna put a body mass index as an input to the search skill. So the search skill is gonna search for body mass index and return the relevant articles on that. Okay. And after that, it's gonna jump to the main menu. Okay. Now, and also this one, it's similar except for different text, different picture. And in here, it's calling the search skill, and it's just gonna do the blood pressure, right? It's gonna look for articles and not blood pressure. So basically, search skill, you can call it by itself, right? I mean, you can call it directly within the node, or it's something that's going to be executed instead of anything else node, right? Anything else node here, it can call the search skill if the input not found. But you cannot test the search skill here, right? So if I do this and I put something like this table, it's not going to recognize. It's just going to say irrelevant. I don't understand. And I try rephrasing. So here it's executing what? The anything else node. But when you have a search skill added to assistant, it's going to attempt to search the repository for the word table. That's what it's not doing here. Okay. Now we're going to go back next. Anything else, right? You know it handles a condition, right? When user's input is not recognized. But here you need to be careful because the search skill basically sort of like overrides anything else functionality. So do not add any calculations to anything else node because they're just not going to get executed. Okay, it's not going to get executed because you've got the search skill. And important, anything else should be last node and welcome should be first. All right. Here I put different response type. I should also add the search, right? So in your assignment, you asked to do different response type, right? Now, this is what to do next after the response. You want to wait for user's input. You want to jump to another node, or you want to just skip the input. But this work is if it's a node, if the node is a child node. Okay. Now, this is just how this is set up, and I showed you how the welcome node is set up. Different picture, right? Different image, different wording, depending on the time of the date when you launch this application, right? This is just the syntax now, which means at current time, and this is checking if now before this time, okay? And I believe this is in a military time zone. All right, so here, this is just going over the structure. You've got the node name, you have the entry condition, right, for each node, and then you have the response, and you have what happens, what to do next, right? So that's just general response type. It just shows you how to add an image, and I showed you that, right? You need to specify the URL. You cannot copy and paste the image directly. And we talk about options. So remember, option value is going to trigger the intent, right? Well, if I just say, how can I help you? It does not help much. I don't know what the chatbots could expect. So it's helpful to give this nice menu. It will reduce the likelihood of the incorrect input because user knows what is expected. So that's more personalizing. Well, actually, it makes the chatbot to be more usable, right? Because you know what's expected. You select the option, right? Selecting the option is equivalent to typing what you type to trigger the intent. Okay, so this is just showing you how this is customized. For the blood pressure, it's looking for a number. There are two slots. Each one is looking for the number. All right, and you need to enable the slots. It's not enabled by default. You know that, right? Well, this is just shows you how to extract the email, and that one is just the context. This is how it's read from the input. It's like this, email, not literal. This is just the syntax. And trust me, It took me a little bit of time to get it. And then to edit the context variables, you can use a Json editor, right? Like you asked to do in a walkthrough, or you can do the context editor. So there are multiple ways to do that, right? This one showing an example on how to use the dates, right? So now it's a current date and time, and this is a reformat date and time. This is gonna extract the date. And there's no magic here. I took this from the documentation page and applied this to this chatbot, right? And this is just a goodbye. It has a conditional response. It's checking if the date, right? The day. And based on that, it shows the message based on the day, right? Folder is an ability to group different things together, like information on a topic, and I want to have BMI and explain blood pressure to nodes. Those are not the child and parent node. Those are just the nodes, right? Main nodes. But I want to kind of like, I want to be able to open and collapse part of the dialogue, right? Sometimes I want to do that, so you can use folders if you need to. This is just the test. What happens? And I'm using the try to test, right? You won't be able to test the search skill in the try, but here I just checking. What it shows is that it shows which option was selected. This is estimate BMI, so it's triggering the BMI intent. Here, you're entering the height, and what it's doing, it's reading the number. It found the number 60, and then here, it's also reading what the pounds, and then here, it's just gonna give you the BMI based on that, okay? Well, this just tells you what it does. It's interpreting how it's finding the entities in the input. See this email me? Same thing, right? See this, what is this email? This is the entities that's being found, right? Email me is an intent, and in here, this is an entity that I just got. And this is the message, right? Discovery service integration. So sometimes you may ask a question that requires searching, right? The chatbot is not trained on everything. So sometimes we want to configure the dialog node to do the search, or, well, basically you have a collection of documents and the collection refreshes itself once a week, perhaps, right? And you want to have the latest and greatest information. That's why we use the search skill. An example that you got, it shows you the search skills for medical topics, right? Medical. That's mainly for things like maybe your health, right? Health issues, fitness issues, something like nutrition, the first response articles, this type of things. If you are, but Watson Discovery allows you to create two collections. So if you are doing something different for your assignment, different topic, you can create a second collection on that topic, right? So you want to make sure that the URL you're using are more like a broad. Well, you know how you have a WebMD page, right? That is used in the example, but this page has a lot of the sub pages, right? So you want to put a main page URL to get more documents. Because if you put the URL of a specific child page, that's not gonna work. You're not gonna get enough documents. It takes hours to generate the repository of documents. So I would recommend doing it early. But first you have to have your dialogue done, because how you're gonna do this, you don't know which topics you're doing, you don't know which topic to search for, right? There is a nice web page perhaps on the car information. There is a web page on that, so you have to pick the web page on your topic, all right? Or perhaps if you're ordering something, right? You might be interested to learn about the food that you're ordering. Like for instance, what are the calories in there, things like that, right? And then you want to search and see what you find about it. Before you place an order, sometimes you need to research on the products that you're purchasing, okay? So that's where it's also relevant, but you're gonna use the different documents to build the web crawler, okay? One thing I need to tell is this, Watson Discovery Service, right? If you look at it, by default, most of you are in the Dallas location, but not all the locations have a light plan. You have to change the location. I believe London has a light plan still. So when you add the service, when you are at the step to add the service, you need to change the service location, okay? The service location is London. London has a light plan, right? You don't enter it, you don't want to be paying for this. You select the light plan, but it's not available in the Dallas location. You can change the location. Nobody can tell you you cannot, right? Location only for that service that you're adding. Okay, let's see. The system does not allow to change it. Yes, it does. It should allow you to change the location of the Watson Discovery service. Yes, it should. Of course, it should. Well, once you edit it, then maybe not. But in order to edit, you go to catalog and you specify location. Yes, it does. If it does not, then you need to submit the case. But I thought we had it fixed for you. But well, see this. I'm gonna go to the catalog. 1 second. This is. Oops. I'm gonna go to the catalog and I'll show you what I mean. Catalog. Catalog. No, you don't change the Watson Assistant location. You have to change only the discovery, Watson Discovery Service. The discovery service is a service that where you build the repository, right? So when you go in here, that's a catalog, right? I'm gonna go to the discovery. You can do it like this too. You can add, see, like discovery, right? When you edit the discovery service, see this initially takes you to this page where this is a location that's going to show the default Dallas. But the problem is in Dallas, you don't have the light plan, right? So you have to switch the location here. Okay. Well, this is a discovery. I'm not talking about the Watson Assistant. No. This is a Watson Discovery. It's a service where you use for the documents repository. I know that I can say this one, light plan, it's working. See here, I can select this, right? Check and do create. But by no means, please do not delete the Watson Discovery Service. Please do not delete Watson Discovery Service. What happens if you do? Well, this service is not deleted completely. You delete it from the front end, it does not get deleted completely. There is some cleanup that has to be done. Okay. Well, it is, I think, in the instructions, it does say what Watson Discovery Service is used for. It does say. What? Which pull-up message is supposed to include the screenshot? What's that? I can't have service. Oh, what do you mean you can't have service with a free account? I'm confused now. Because when you created the Watson Assistant service, you created Watson Assistant service, what did you choose? Let me go to catalog here again. When you created the Watson Assistant service, what you got to do is, let's see. Okay, Watson Assistant, right? Well, see here, you must select this one. You have to select trial plan. If you did not select the trial plan, you will have an option to update to trial plans and go for it. Okay, you will have an option to update. You can go for it. Okay, he did select trial. Okay, yes, you have to select trial. Always select trial. Okay, then if you select the trial, then you will be able to add, the search, because you cannot do the search if you don't select this one. Okay, this is valid for 30 days, but The thing is, after that, if 30 days elapse, you will be able to download your JSON files. Then you can add another instance of the service and upload your JSON file. Not a big deal, you know. This is not a big deal if 30 days expire. Well, I'm just telling you in case some of you may be interested to explore testing. Well, this is the analytics. You have to go this. After you did 2 days of testing, you need to do this. Take a screenshot of this. Take a screenshot of those and explain those. You have to look at 2 days, which your top intents, top entities, right? Basically, what you do is the first state of experiment, you send that link. And what is a link? I need to show you that because, well, then you're going to be all puzzled, right? That's important too. So you send the link and then you have several people test it. I can test that too. Okay, I can test it. And then this is basically, okay. So this is just then you're gonna see something, you're gonna look at some of the conversations, right? And see where user conversations, see some of the conversations and see here, well, this is an example, which intent is triggered. So I can open the conversation and it's gonna show me which intent got triggered. And if it triggers incorrect intent, you can edit the intent classifications, okay? That's basically what it is. You can edit intent classifications here. Okay, well, this is what you need to do for the experiment. I wanted to make sure that I cover it. But now if I go back to your testers, you can submit the ticket and I can test your chatbot. That will help too, right? Because what you need to do is you need to do you build this assistant, right? Then you need to send the link to a couple of your, you have 2 days experiment, right? You send the link to several people on the first day, people test it, then you look at this analysis page, make necessary adjustments, and then the second day, right? I can be one of your testers if you'd like. That will help, right? Well,
Okay. All
Elena,
right.
Elena, I'm having an issue with when I go to start my skill in the discovery instant, it says some of your discovery instances do not have credentials.
Oh, that one, easy fix. That's an easy fix, just because it takes a while to provision. It's like it takes a while for the service to provision. So sometimes you may get this error, but when I got this error, what I did was I just went to the what do you call this? In here, I go to the resources, right? This is the resource list. I
Yep.
open the service directly. Right? And did what I just did to make sure that there are credentials. It just gets fixed by itself. Just go in here, go to service credentials, make sure this is okay. Well, it's because, well, sometimes if you do it like immediately, your service is still in the middle of provisioning. That's why.
Okay, so I should just wait a few minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, this is here. You see, I mean, I've seen some of the issues are reproducing, but unfortunately, it's hard to document all of them. But yes, that one I reproduced. Credentials issue. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for all your help. Thanks.
Oh, most welcome. Stop recording.